Harris?
Good morning, or good whatever it is for you. Good afternoon, maybe.
Yeah,
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's kind of cold here, but
It's hot here. I think it's going to 100 today.
it sounds like Vegas.
Yeah. And is it okay with everybody that I record?
hmm
And then I am organized here. I guess as organized as I'm going to be this morning. Anything we should be talking about before we look at beeps?
Well, one thing, I in the middle of my session today, the I snagged the cord on something and it snapped, so I'm now cordless.
Okay.
Um, so I guess um, maybe now's a good opportunity to think about whether you should send me another one of these, or are you nearing the end of my sessions anyways, and want to be done? Or I know I've missed a lot recently, which I feel bad about. So I don't know if you.
Well, I,
Have,
I, I was on my agenda that we should be talking about where we're going from here, so this gives us an excuse to talk about that. The or an opportunity, not an excuse. I would say that from our point of view, we have accomplished what it is that we have set out to accomplish, which from my point of view is something like I'm collecting and putting on the web different kinds of people so that people can see what DES interviews with different folks are, and we've got now this might be day 12 or something like that. I'm not 100% sure about that, but pretty many. We have
Today's
enough.
day 14.
This is 14.
Yeah.
So I'd say we have more than enough to accomplish that goal. And but everybody has the opportunity to have their own goal in this kind of endeavor.
um, yeah, I guess I've gotten. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about. Did you do a sort of wrap up session where you talk about people's thoughts and what they?
We do a wrap up. We do a wrap up session where everybody gets a chance to ask whatever it is that they want to ask in the wrap up deal, and sometimes that raises many questions, and sometimes it raises none, and so that I would think that would be an interesting thing to do. So maybe we should plan to look at today's beeps and then decide how much time and energy we have to do a wrap up session, and whether that should be today or on some other day. And in the meantime, so as we've been going, I have been creating, or Amber and I have been creating transcripts. So we have actually transcripts of all of the 13 interviews that we've got so far. And I have been adding commentary to those transcripts.
Yeah, cool.
I would explain what the commentary is. So basically basically in my head there was the possibility that we would put these things out on the web and people would look at them, and I added commentary that I thought would be of interest to somebody who was reading this commentary,
Mm,
and or someone who's reading or listening to or watching these interviews. And that might be you, and so I would say some of the comment is probably aimed at you, although not much of it, I think. I don't have a very good memory, and so I don't really know what's out there, but some of it would probably be aimed at you, and some of it would be aimed at readers who didn't know you or me or anybody else, and was happened upon this stuff. And so I would be describing why I thought this was a good question or a bad question, or why what I thought about the answer to this question, or whatever. I don't actually remember what's there, but so we could send you this whole batch of stuff between now and the debrief interview,
mm,
and and that would have the virtue, I guess, of then you would know. So as you may have noticed, I haven't yet asked you for permission to put these things on the web,
right, right.
and and that's purposeful on my part, because I don't want to. put anything on the web that people don't want to have on the web. So before I would put anything on the web, I would let you see the whole deal, basically. I haven't actually made a website. The website would look like my other websites, but there would be a list of all the days and the descriptions of all the samples and links to all the transcripts and I think you've seen some of those things, so you know what they look like.
Right.
And I haven't yet built that. That takes some time, and I haven't done it because it takes some time. And but I could send you all of the transcripts, which are commented on or whatever. And I think, Amber, you might remember. Are all of these interviews on the web? Are they on YouTube in an unlisted mode?
I'm unsure of that. I don't receive them that way. So any videos that I've reviewed are not through that method.
My guess is that they're not, and they're not on the web, because I would have asked Tristan whether I could put them on the web before I did it. And since I don't recall having that conversation, I probably haven't put them on the web. But I could. We could have a conversation now, which would be something like, "Is it okay with you for me to put the interviews on the web in unlisted mode, and then send you the transcripts, and then you could watch the videos and read the transcripts or do whatever it is that you would want. You'd have the whole thing except the package that links them together in one website."
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then after you had seen that, then you could say, "Well, I didn't know you were going to say that," or whatever. And I don't think you'll have that reaction, but you could. And then we could take them back down off of YouTube or wherever.
Yeah, sounds good.
So maybe that would be the plan. The plan would be we would make a transcript of today's interview, and I would comment on that, and then I would put all of the videos onto YouTube in unlisted mode, and send you all of the transcripts. And then we should schedule and you would send me back the beeper, and I would send you I didn't mean I'd send you. We would schedule a debrief time. We would schedule a time for debrief. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good, yeah.
Does that sound like a plan to you, Amber?
Sure, unless we want to do a debrief today after sampling. Because we've done that before. I mean, unless we want to do the videos and all that first. I guess I don't know what would be most effective.
So there are two downsides to doing the debrief today. One is Tristan may very well have questions after he sees the transcripts or looks at the transcripts as much as he wants to look at them. And I don't actually remember what Tristan's sampling is because we haven't sampled for quite a while. And so it might be a little opaque for me to do a debrief today. If Tristan wanted to know what I thought of the characteristics of his inner experience, I'd have to bring those back to mind somehow. And
sure, yeah. I was just wondering what would be.
No,
I guess
that
logistically, yeah.
reading the transcripts first sounds good to me.
Okay.
Gives me more to work with.
All right. So I will do the tasks that I have said I would do, and we should schedule a time that we can change or whatever, like any other time. But we should put on the calendar a time for a debrief, which might be a week or so out. And
do you want to do that now?
We can do that now. Let's plan for that. And within the next day or two, I will send you the stuff. It might take me a while to round it all up because some of it's going to be on my office computer at the university. Some of it's going to be on my computer here. So I will set about doing that. All right. Shall we talk about today's beeps? You've got that on the calendar, Amber, and you're going to send us all a
Yeah, I'm working on that
notification
right
of that.
now.
All right, let's do beep number one.
Okay, so I've got 3 beeps today, and
Okay.
then my cord broke. So beep number 1, uh, as a matter of fact, I'm plunging the toilet. So one first component is I am visually concentrated on plunger having successfully plunged, and the water level is starting to go down. 2 is I'm thinking about how I'm going to clean the plunger. So I'm not necessarily thinking in words, sort of just this is just thought about what I'm going to do, and I'm possibly thinking about flushing the toilet again and using the water coming down to sides of the bowl to clean the plunger, but this is a little vague.
And is that it, one and two?
That's it.
And is one of those more prominent than the other?
The visual concentration.
And about the visual concentration, there were 2 aspects that you described, the plunger and the water. Are you attending to both of those at the same time?
Yes.
And does that seem like one thing, the plunger and the water, or does it seem like I'm seeing the plunger and I'm also separately, more or less, seeing the water level?
It's kind of one thing. Yeah.
So I'm seeing what's happening in the world that I'm aimed at, which happens to be the plunger and the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the plunger and the water more or less equally clearly. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And is there anything more to be said about that other than my eyeballs are aimed at the plunger in the water, there actually is a plunger in the water, and I am seeing the plunger in the water?
Well, it's um yeah, it's possible it's not entirely a visual thing because there's kind of the sound of the plunger having just worked and then the water going down. So it's sort of this one. I'm concentrated on this, yeah, I'm concentrated on sort of the state that's in right now. But it includes sort of like having successfully plunged for sure.
Okay.
Is a component. So it's not just I'm concentrating on the plunger. I'm also concentrating on having successfully plunged.
So that would make it sort of an analytic thing. I'm recognizing myself as having been successful, or recognizing the state as having been successful.
Um, Hard to say if that's analytic or
Okay.
maybe we can just keep it simple.
Okay. So what I'm getting out of here is the toilet is flushing. I'm apprehending this event, and it's maybe mostly visual, but probably partially auditory, and maybe also a little bit of, well, I was successful.
Yeah.
Okay. And then at the same time, I am thinking about how to clean the plunger.
Yes.
And that takes place without any words, but this, I gather, is something like an analytic or a cognitive or whatever word we want to use for that.
Yeah.
And it might involve flush. Maybe I'm thinking maybe I should flush again.
Yeah.
And is there anything more to be said about this aspect that I am contemplating in some way, some unworded way, how to clean the
I
plunger?
think that's good. Yeah, I think that's it. That's everything.
I think I'm good about that. Amber, you good? You
Yeah,
want to
I'm good.
ask about number 2, Amber?
Yeah, let's do that. Beep 2.
Week 2. So Um, the phrase "yeah, the cat" is sort of present to me. It's the last thing I've read. Um, and then there's some recognition that this is a joke. I guess so. Maybe the situation is I'm reading a comment on the internet, um, and yeah, on Reddit. Um,
Okay. Is that it? Just the phrase and the joke piece? Is there anything else?
yeah,
Okay.
that's it. That's it.
And does this seem like one thing kind of enmeshed, or is this like two separate things going on?
That's two components, so I didn't separate
Okay,
them.
gotcha. And then is anyone more salient in your experience?
The phrase "yeah, the cat." Um,
Okay. So this is as a fact in the universe the last thing I've read,
yeah,
but somehow
but
it's present.
it's also present to me as sort of like together is a thing.
And when you say together, does this mean like what does that mean by together?
Um, oh, so I've just read this, but sort of the phrase is sort of present to me in a way as sort of like a um, in my mind, maybe has some qualities of yeah, it's present to me in some way.
Okay. And I guess these words quote, yeah, the cat is present.
Yeah,
And
Sounds
how,
sounds like the phrase, yeah, the cat is present,
yes, yeah.
not the individual words.
yeah, the phrase.
And how is that present in your experience?
Um, it may have some very slight qualities um, of of imagining myself speaking it, or but that's very slight.
Okay. So the words are present, possibly spoken, but hard to say.
Possibly some qualities of speechiness, I would
Okay.
say.
And I'm understanding that this phrase is somehow separated out from the rest of the stuff that you've been reading. So it's not just like these are the last three words of the sentence. It's that somehow I am grasping these three words. Is that right?
Yeah,
And I think now that I'm thinking back, we've used the phrase latching onto.
mm,
Is this a latching onto? I'm somehow latched onto these three words or this phrase.
yeah, yeah, I would say so.
Okay. So it's not just I'm reading along and the beep happens, and when you ask me when the beep happens, I can say it's at. I've just finished the phrase you yeah the cat, but instead the beep happens maybe slightly after that, where I've latched onto the phrase yeah the cat.
Right, right.
Okay. I think I'm good about that portion.
Me as well. Okay. And then the next portion is this recognition it's a joke.
Yeah.
Okay. How's that present in your experience?
Um,
And before we get too far down that, can I ask whether this is a like a separate analytical thought that's sort of in parallel with that, or is it part of the latching onto includes the this is a joke portion?
hmm, um, I will. It's kind of hard to say.
So the question that I'm asking is something like, have I latched onto the joke, yeah, the cat, or have I latched onto the phrase and at the same time I'm considering, well, yeah, that's a joke.
I think they're a little bit separate.
Okay.
So how is that present in your experience?
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to say. Maybe I didn't put enough detail down for this one. Um, I think it's a sort of yeah, it's hard for me to specify this one. Um, it's not like I'm thinking it's extremely funny or it's like it's sort of like I've realized it's kind of it's kind of a lame joke. It's not like a good joke. So I'm just like, oh yeah, that's a joke. It's kind of matter of fact. Um,
So just to kind of make sure I'm clearing this up, is that to say that this, yeah, the cat is, as a fact of the universe, a joke? Am
yeah.
I, or is it that I'm somehow in my experience, I'm experiencing the jokiness part of this?
No, this is a joke. So maybe since the fact that I can't give good explanation of it means you can wrap it up into the reading and recognizing as a joke thing. But yeah, it's sort of just. I mean, I may find it yeah, there's a component I probably should have noted about how I feel about it being a joke. And my supposition is that I'm not too impressed.
So I didn't find it funny, but I recognize that it's a joke. It's sort of a
Yeah,
lame joke.
yeah,
And whether that's separate from or intertwined with the latching on the phrase, yeah, the cat, that's sort of hard to say.
yeah.
Okay. And I think I'm good about that.
Yeah, me as well.
But I guess I should be make about one thing. That this is a joke is not in words. There's no quote, this is a joke, unquote. Is that right?
Right, right.
Okay. That's what I presumed. But number three.
All right. So I'm listening to, as a matter of fact, I'm listening to a podcast. I have just heard the phrase "looks for trains on TikTok," um, and I have sort of latched on to that um, to it. Um, and I'm sort of cognizing, trying to decipher what that means. Um, and that's the second component. And part of this cognizing involves maybe a third element, which is that like, or maybe it's part of the second element, which is that there's some slight image, visual image that I'm trying to conjure into my mind. I can't really give good details of it. There may be a train involved. I mean, there probably is a train involved, but it's hard to give details about it. Um, there's possibly an aspect of social media, TikTok, or some pinkish social media icon. I don't know if that's the actual TikTok icon or if I have the Instagram one confused, but that's what I put, possibly pinkish icon aspect. Yeah, TikTok I think is black
Fill
and
up because this is one of
oh
the
sorry. TikTok is black and white, but there's possibly an aspect of a pink icon, which is an Instagram icon. Um,
So there's two or three portions.
right.
Then, and one of them is for sure. I am hearing the podcast Looks for Train on TikTok, and you use the word latching, but I don't want us to just assume that I know what that means. Does that mean what?
Right.
Does that mean that I've somehow separated that phrase out, and I am somehow fixated that phrase? It's not just that's the end of the
Right,
last.
that's correct.
Okay. And at the same time, I experience myself trying to figure out what that latched upon phrase is.
Mm.
And that maybe in the second portion, we could call a third portion that there's some imagery, some inchoate inner imagery involved with that.
Right.
And does that seem like it makes more sense to call this sort of one thing? I'm trying to figure out what it means, and that involves this inchoate imagery? Or does it seem like I'm trying to
So
figure it out
yeah, that's true. I think I'm not, me trying to figure out what it means is not just an imagery, but it's part of it. Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like there's sort of one cognitive-y thing going on, trying to figure out what that means, and that probably includes this inchoate imagery.
Yeah.
As opposed to two separate strands going on. One is I'm trying to figure out what it means, and I am seeing this imagery. It seems like more or less one thing.
Right.
Okay. And the trying to figure out what it means, I'm gathering this is an analytical, but unworded process.
Yeah.
There's no quote, what does it mean, unquote, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And yet I experience myself as somehow trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. And about the imagery, there seems to be something visual about this, but I'm not, and I think it involves a train, but I'm not sure. And I think it involves a pinkish icon, but I'm not sure about that either. But that's the way it seems to me.
Yeah.
And does that seem like a recollection in the sense that if we'd had this conversation right after the beep, I would still like, if I had been in your room when you had that conversation and we're asking these questions, you would be saying, well, it seems like maybe there's a train there, or does it seem like this is something that I'm trying to explain inchoate visual imagery and
the first, yeah, this is something right after the beep. As I was trying to get into words, I couldn't exactly figure out what the imagery was.
Okay. So at the moment just after the beep, when I'm jotting down notes, I'm recognizing, yeah, there's probably inchoate imagery. What's in that imagery? I'm not 100% sure. Probably a train and a pinkish image.
Right.
Pinkish icon. And does that imagery seem to exist anywhere? It's out in front of me in my head. Doesn't seem to exist anywhere. It's a silly question as far as this is concerned.
Yeah, that question doesn't make that much sense to me. It definitely doesn't exist in the room with me. It definitely doesn't exist. Well, I mean, it definitely. I don't think it exists overlaid on what I'm visually seeing in the room around me. So I'd say closer to the in my head part.
Okay. Then I think I am pretty good. You good, Ember?
I just want to double check about the phrase. Could you say the phrase for me one more time, just to make sure I got it?
Looks for trains on TikTok.
Perfect. Then I am good as well.
So that's number 3 out of 3 for today.
Mm-hmm.
And we have tentatively decided what it is that we're going to do, which is to say I'm going to put together all this stuff and put it into a package in such a way that I can send it to you. Mm-hmm. And then 10 days out from now or so, we are going to have a conversation about this if we're ready by that time, assuming that I get my job done and you get a chance to look at it. And I would say you've got no obligation to look at it. So it's not like this is an assignment that you have to do. If you're interested in looking at it, you should do that. And when you look at what I have written, well, the commentary that's in there, you should not confuse that with the truth with a capital T. That's Russ's commentary that he thought might be interesting at the time that he was looking at the transcripts. And maybe I would disagree with myself after, you know, I don't fancy myself as having access to the fundamental truth of the universe. I do the best I can when I have the opportunity. And so when we have the debriefing interview could be about the commentary that I've written, or it could be about what you said. And I guess in the meantime also Amber and I have to write some kind of a characterization of your samples, and that's going to take us a while. So we will apply ourselves to that, but when that will come, I don't know. So we'll have some form of that done by the time that we're going to meet for a debrief, whether we've actually written it or not. I'm not guaranteeing anything because there's other stuff that has to be done and whatever. So does that seem like a plan?
That sounds good, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
We will see you in 10
Thank you.
days unless somebody changes their mind.
See you soon.
All right. See you later.